This video is a fictional sci-fi story created for entertainment and storytelling purposes only. All characters, alien species, events, technologies, and scenarios are fictional. This content is not real news, official information, or scientific documentation.
Professor Vaylor had just placed Earth inside the energy machine when 13 stars disappeared. They did not explode. They produced no radiation burst, no gravitational recoil, no final flare. 13 points of light simply ceased to exist across 12 inhabited systems, leaving planets to circle masses that instruments insisted were no longer there. The classroom windows darkened automatically. 24 alien students lifted their heads as emergency symbols flooded the walls. A moment earlier, several had been amused by the blue planet rotating above Vaylor's demonstration table. Now Earth expanded until its oceans covered the ceiling. A warning appeared beneath it. Vaylor stared at the machine. It had been built before his species discovered electricity. The Academy used it to demonstrate the relationship between living worlds and the quantum filaments connecting stars. It could project gravitational fields, chart stellar migration, and model the energy economies of civilizations. It had never used the word anchor. Sierra rose from the front row. Her silver eyes followed lines of blue light spreading from Earth toward every corner of the projection. Professor, are those communication routes? No. Trade corridors? No. What are they? Vaylor approached the hologram. The lines did not connect Earth to planets or stations. They descended beneath ordinary space, intersecting the hidden mathematical structure that determined how vacuum energy behaved. They appear to be load-bearing pathways. A student near the back gave a strained laugh. That world cannot support interstellar infrastructure. Its inhabitants still burn fossil carbon. The speaker was Keth, heir to a family of military navigators and the highest-ranked student in the class. He gestured toward the human planet. They have not even unified their governments. That may be relevant, Vaylor said. A heavy barrier slammed across the classroom entrance. Security drones descended from the ceiling, their weapons pointed inward. The Academy's emergency network announced that the room had been quarantined because an unauthorized activation of a restricted artifact had coincided with mass stellar failure. Every student looked at Vaylor. He tried to end the Earth simulation. The machine rejected his command. A second message appeared. Primary anchor. Unaware contact required failure propagation accelerating. The 19-hour estimate dropped to 17. Sierra stepped closer to the projection. Is the machine saying the humans can stop this? It is saying more than that. Vaylor magnified one of the vanished systems. 3 billion people lived on its fourth planet. Their cities remained visible beneath artificial lights, but orbital models showed their world drifting away from the place its sun had occupied. The star's gravity had vanished with its light. Those people had weeks before their atmosphere froze, perhaps less if panic destroyed the power grids first. Keth's confidence cracked. Professor? Vaylor found the Academy's external sensors. Another star was losing coherence. Its spectral lines stretched like paint beneath running water. The blue threads from Earth trembled. I believe, Vaylor said, that the machine is telling us something our civilization was never meant to forget. The classroom display switched to an incoming transmission. Chancellor Arun appeared, flanked by armored officers. Professor Vaylor, step away from the artifact. You are under investigation for sabotage and the unlawful manipulation of pre-Union technology. I initiated a standard educational simulation. You selected a prohibited world. Earth is not prohibited. It has been classified for 43 years. That struck Vaylor harder than the accusation. He had taught planetary sciences for nearly a century. No ordinary inhabited world could be hidden from a professor of his rank. Why? Arun glanced toward someone outside the transmission field. A new figure replaced him. Director Nerl of the Continuity Directorate wore no ceremonial uniform. His dark coat carried only one symbol, a broken circle crossed by a silver line. Valor recognized it from classified disaster reports. The Directorate intervened when the survival of entire species was at risk. Nerl studied Earth with an expression closer to recognition than surprise. "Because the last expedition we sent there never returned," he said, "and because its final message consisted of 4 words." The classroom walls replayed a 43-year-old recording. Static rolled over the voice of an alien explorer. "Earth is holding it closed." The transmission ended. Director Nerl looked directly at Valor. "You have 17 hours to explain what that means." The machine revised the countdown again. 16 hours, 42 minutes. Then every speaker in the classroom produced a sound no alien present had heard before. A human voice. "Hello? This is Dr. Elena Ward at the Arecibo Lunar Array. Whoever you are, you have attached something to our sun." Elena Ward had been awake for 31 hours when the universe answered a calibration pulse she had not intended to send. The Arecibo Lunar Array occupied a crater on the far side of the moon, shielded from Earth's constant radio noise. Its instruments were designed to detect gravitational distortions left by hypothetical cosmic strings. The work demanded patience, immaculate mathematics, and a tolerance for years without confirmation. At 0317 Coordinated Lunar Time, every detector had pointed toward Earth. At 0318, a signal had arrived from no measurable direction. At 0319, Elena had heard an alien teacher telling a classroom that humanity might be supporting the structure of space. She assumed exhaustion until the sun's neutrino output dropped by 4%. Now an alien face watched her from the main display. The creature had pale blue skin, a narrow skull, and eyes the color of old amber. Students clustered behind him while armed machines floated overhead. Elena took a breath. "Can you understand me?" "Yes," the alien replied. "The energy machine is translating. I am Professor Valor of the Illyrian Academy." Elena Ward, astrophysicist. "Before we discuss academies, species, or the fact that I am speaking to someone who is clearly not from Earth, tell me what you have done to our star." "I placed your world inside a classroom model." "That is not reassuring." One of the alien students leaned into view. She was smaller than Valor, with bright silver eyes. "It was supposed to be a lesson. It still might be," Elena said. "What is an energy machine?" Valor looked at the device beneath Earth's projection. "We do not fully know." Director Nerl entered the classroom through a security field that opened only for him. 6 officers followed. Elena watched him assess the students, exits, and machine before looking at her. He moved like someone accustomed to disasters and disappointed when others had not prepared for them. "I am Director Nerl," he said. "Your planet may be connected to the disappearance of 14 stars." Elena checked her instruments. "Stars do not disappear. They do now." He transmitted the data. Elena examined it twice. The observations came from technologies she could not identify, yet the measurements were internally consistent. Mass, light, and curvature had vanished together. It resembled a deletion from the equations rather than a physical event. "What do you want from us?" "Access to your planetary communication systems, defense networks, and energy infrastructure." "No, we have limited time." That does not make giving an unknown military organization access to Earth a sensible first move. Nerl's jaw tightened. 14 star systems have suffered catastrophic failure, and you arrived by accusing the only world your machine says can help. I described the evidence. You described fear as evidence. Sierra's mouth moved in what Elena suspected was an involuntary smile. Valor magnified the threads radiating from Earth. "Dr. Ward, do your people possess technology capable of altering vacuum energy? If we did, I would not be operating a research station with a water recycler that works every 3rd Tuesday." Have you discovered a structure beneath ordinary space-time? A network of quantum relationships connecting stellar magnetic fields. We have theories about vacuum entanglement. Nothing like this. Nerral sent another file. 43 years ago, one of our survey vessels observed unusual energy behavior near your planet. The crew transmitted a warning and vanished. Did they contact Earth? No. Then whatever happened to them may have had nothing to do with us. Their final statement named Earth. Elena replayed the words. Earth is holding it closed. What does closed mean? That, Nerral said, is what your species must tell us. Humanity had spent generations imagining first contact. Elena had read the official protocols. Establish identity. Avoid disclosing strategic information. Transfer communication to authorized representatives. Never make commitments on behalf of Earth. None of the protocols included a dying universe. She opened a secure channel to the United Nations Contact Council. The signal failed before leaving the moon. Your machine is blocking my communications. Valor examined the artifact. It is isolating the conversation. Then turn it off. I cannot. Elena hated systems that could not be interrupted. Her father had called it a professional virtue. Her younger brother Gabriel had called it the reason she tried to organize family dinners with spreadsheets. She brought up the pattern transmitted by the alien machine. The blue pathways looked irregular, dense around Earth, and thin near other inhabited worlds. Professor, you called those lines load-bearing. Based on what? They carry stress through the vacuum lattice. Energy? Not exactly. More like coherence. Elena overlaid the map with Earth's magnetic field, solar wind, and radio emissions. No match. She tried population density, power consumption, and neural activity estimates. The lines changed every time human activity changed. A storm over the Pacific altered one. A power station in Kenya altered another. A concert in Sao Paulo produced a cluster of tiny variations. She magnified the data. The network was not responding to humanity's energy output. It was responding to differences between human actions. Your machine isn't measuring power, Elena said. It is measuring variation. Valor leaned closer. Nerral did not. Explain. Our planet contains billions of minds making independent decisions. Languages, machines, arguments, art, traffic, markets, mistakes. The signal is chaotic, but not random. Your lattice appears to be using those differences as stress relief. Keth crossed his arms. Primitive noise is supporting the universe? Elena looked at him. What does your civilization do with noise? We eliminate it. On Valor's projection, another star began to blur. Elena understood before any of them said it. You made your civilization too quiet. Valor had spent his career teaching that civilization was the triumph of order over waste. The Union's power grids operated with one synchronized frequency. Traffic systems predicted every journey. Medical networks corrected genetic disease before birth. Public disagreements were resolved by consensus engines that modeled acceptable compromises. Even music was optimized for neurological harmony. The result was peace across 400 worlds. It might also have weakened the universe. Valor requested historical lattice measurements. The energy machine responded by displaying 12,000 years of stellar coherence. The decline followed the expansion of the Union. Not perfectly. Not enough to prove guilt. Yet every major synchronization project had been followed by a small decrease in the lattice's ability to absorb disturbance. Sierra studied the graph. Why did no one see this? Because each decline occurred across centuries, Valor replied, and because we considered synchronization a measure of progress. Keth moved beside her. Correlation is not causation. No, Elena said through the display. It is a reason to test. Director Nerral paced around the machine. Valor recognized calculation behind his controlled expression. Nerral was not refusing the possibility. He was estimating what admitting it would cost. Suppose Dr. Ward is correct, Nerral said. Why Earth? Thousands of pre-unified civilizations exist. Elena adjusted the model. Most of them adopted your technology. Because it prevents famine and war. It also makes their systems behave alike. Earth developed most of its infrastructure before contact with you. Our networks are connected, but they remain messy. Different standards, independent grids, incompatible software, local customs, and several billion people who dislike being told what to do. Keth looked genuinely offended. You describe inefficiency as a virtue. No, inefficiency kills people. But redundancy can look inefficient until the first system fails. The student considered that without conceding. Vaylor asked the machine to compare Earth with the Union. The resulting image showed Earth as a turbulent sphere, constantly producing small perturbations. The Union appeared as a brilliant, precise tone. The null tide moved easily through the precise tone. Earth scattered it. Nerral contacted his command vessel. Send an unsynchronized pulse through the lattice. Use randomly selected phase intervals, Elena interrupted. Random is not the same as adaptive variation. It is sufficient for a controlled trial. You do not understand what you are testing. I understand that another system will fail within 11 minutes. Nerral selected an uninhabited red dwarf near the edge of the affected region. His vessel released a sequence of energy bursts through a portable lattice interface. For 9 seconds, the star stabilized. Then it vanished. Nerral's officers began issuing evacuation orders to neighboring worlds. Elena examined the failed pulse. Pure randomness contains no correction. Earth's signal changes in response to consequences. We make decisions, observe results, and alter the next decision. Then provide a pattern. I need access to your machine. No. You asked us to save your stars while denying us the one tool that can reach them. I will not connect unknown software from a divided military civilization to technology capable of altering space-time. That is a rational concern, Elena said. So build an isolated translation layer. Give it no control privileges. Professor Vaylor can verify every output. Nerral turned to Vaylor. Can it be done? Yes. How long? 3 hours. You have one. The classroom became a laboratory. Sira converted human mathematics into Union notation. Keth built a security barrier around the translation layer. Vaylor mapped the energy machine's interfaces. Elena recruited scientists from Earth by bouncing messages through the machine's own link. The first human faces appeared across the walls. Dr. Amina Chowdhury joined from a power systems center in Dhaka. Kenji Sato connected from an orbital solar station. Luis Ortega appeared from a radio observatory in Chile. General Amara Okafor represented Earth's Emergency Council and made it clear that Nerral would receive no direct access to military networks. Different accents overlapped. Questions arrived faster than the machine could translate them. The Union officers regarded the disorder with growing discomfort. Elena did not attempt to suppress it. She divided the problem into pieces and allowed each team to propose incompatible solutions. Amina noticed that the lattice reacted strongly to power grids recovering from local faults. Kenji found similar behavior in autonomous spacecraft making navigation corrections. Luis discovered that live human conversation created richer patterns than pre-recorded speech. Feedback, Elena concluded. The lattice needs variation shaped by consequences. Vaylor selected a star showing early instability. It belonged to no inhabited system, but its failure would demonstrate whether Earth could influence the process. The humans constructed a signal using thousands of independent control systems. Weather stations, research satellites, and sections of civilian power infrastructure responded to changing data from the target star. Each system made local corrections without receiving a master rhythm. The energy machine amplified the result. The wavering star regained its spectral shape. Its gravitational field stabilized. For the first time since the crisis began, the countdown increased. 16 hours. Someone on Earth cheered. Others joined until hundreds of human voices spilled through the classroom. Sierra laughed with them. Even Keth allowed himself a brief expression of wonder. Neril watched the repaired star. Can you scale the process? Elena's relief faded. In theory. How long? 8 hours, if your engineers cooperate. You have 6. Neril turned toward his officers, but a message reached him first. It came from the Talaran system, his home. The system's 3 stars had begun losing coherence simultaneously. Director Neril dismissed everyone except Valor before answering the transmission. The classroom's privacy field hid their words, but not the images. Valor saw a red-haired woman in a planetary command center and a young boy beside her. Evacuation vessels climbed through the sky behind them. Neril placed one hand against the display. The boy copied the gesture. When the call ended, Neril remained still for several breaths. My daughter commands Talaran's evacuation network, he said. That child is my grandson. Valor lowered his gaze. I am sorry. Do not offer grief before the loss. It was not cruelty. It was a rule Neril had constructed to remain functional. He deactivated the privacy field and addressed both civilizations. Talaran contains 11 billion people. Its evacuation capacity is 900 million. We will complete the Earth pattern amplifier in 4 hours. Elena shook her head. The design is not ready. It stabilized 1 star. 1 quiet star under controlled conditions. A trinary system with inhabited planets is different. Then account for the difference. Science doesn't become faster because the victims have names. Neril's eyes hardened. All victims have names, Doctor. Urgency does not make our work less scientific. It prevents caution from becoming an excuse for inaction. Elena recognized the truth in that, which made her angrier. 4 hours, she said. But you follow my procedure. Neril agreed. The Talaran stars deteriorated at different rates. The largest produced pulses that destabilized the other 2. Elena proposed 3 independent response networks, each observing the others without sharing a master controller. Keth questioned the design. Without centralized coordination, the signals could interfere. They need to interfere, Elena replied. Controlled interference? Negotiated interference. Those words contradict each other. Welcome to human civilization. Keth did not smile. His own family lived near Talaran. For him, the problem had ceased to be academic. He spent the next hour improving Elena's safeguards. Sierra worked directly with Amina, translating the behavior of Union power systems. Their conversations drifted beyond engineering. Is your world always this disorganized? Sierra asked. More, Amina said. You are seeing us during an emergency. How do you make decisions? Sometimes badly, sometimes brilliantly, usually after an argument. Does that not frighten you? Every day. Sierra absorbed the answer. Our teachers say fear is produced by insufficient prediction. Fear is also what you feel when you understand the stakes. On the opposite side of the classroom, Valor searched the machine's oldest memory layers. The artifact had identified humanity too quickly. It had not discovered Earth during the lesson. It had been waiting for someone to select it. He found a record from 43 years earlier. The lost survey vessel had not been destroyed near Earth. Its crew had entered the lattice through the machine's distant counterpart. They discovered the null tide and attempted to close a breach before it reached normal space. Their final transmission had been mistranslated. Earth is holding it closed did not refer to a deliberate human action. Earth's living variation created a natural boundary that prevented the disturbance from crossing into the galaxy. As Union synchronization spread, that boundary carried an increasing burden. Now it was failing. Vaylor opened another record and found his own name. 37 years ago, he had led an academy project to improve the energy machine's clarity. The artifact produced what researchers considered meaningless fluctuations. Vaylor had designed a filter that removed them. His daughter Leary had opposed him. She believed the fluctuations were information. During their final experiment, an uncontrolled resonance overloaded the interface. Leary died while shutting it down. Vaylor had blamed the noise. He had refined the filter and distributed it to every Union lattice system. The improvement became a universal standard. He had not created the null tide, but he had removed one of the network's last defenses. Vaylor closed the record before anyone noticed. Talaren's first star began to collapse. Elena ordered the response networks online. Across Earth, independent systems fed corrections into the energy machine. Human operators made local choices. The Union amplifier converted those choices into lattice perturbations. The first star stabilized. The second followed. Nerral contacted his daughter. Evacuation vessels reversed course as the system's gravitational fields returned. The third star remained unstable. Increase the signal, Nerral ordered. Elena monitored the pattern. Hold the current level. The star is still failing. It is responding. Give the networks time to adapt. The countdown beneath Talaren's third sun showed 2 minutes. Nerral looked at his grandson's face on the evacuation feed. Amplifier to maximum. Vaylor stepped forward. Director, execute. The machine released the full pattern. Talaren's third star brightened. The classroom erupted in relief as its gravitational field recovered. Nerral's daughter lowered her head against her console. His grandson pointed upward at the restored light. Then the star began producing a single, perfectly stable frequency. Elena's face drained of color. Shut down the amplifier. Nerral obeyed immediately. The signal continued. The 3 response networks had synchronized with one another. Their negotiated interference had converged toward the most efficient solution, turning human variation into Union order. The frequency spread beyond Taleren. Stars across the galactic core began matching it. The null tide followed the synchronized pathway like fire through dry grass. The collapse estimate fell from 16 hours to 47 minutes. The first wave erased 200 stars. The second took more than 1,000. Emergency signals filled the academy. Planets lost daylight. Orbital habitats watched their navigation references vanish. Union ships dropped from transit as the equations supporting their drives became unreliable. Elena remained in front of the lunar display while reports of failure covered her face. She had built the scaling model. Nerral had forced its early activation, but she had told him it could work. She had mistaken temporary stability for recovery and treated the lattice as an engineering system that wanted equilibrium. Gabriel had died because of a similar assumption. 11 years earlier, Elena had designed autonomous controls for an orbital power network. During a solar storm, the system received conflicting instructions from damaged sensors. She had overridden local operators and imposed a single solution. The network stabilized. A station outside the model's expected range lost power. Gabriel was one of 63 people trapped without life support. Since then, Elena had trusted her calculations only after trying to disprove them. Nerral's deadline had pulled her back toward the person she feared becoming. "Dr. Ward," Vaylor said, "we require another option." Her reply came quietly. "You required the correct option the first time. The failure belongs to all of us." No. Shared responsibility can be another way of hiding individual mistakes. She closed the Taleren model and opened Earth's lattice map. The blue threads were thinning. Sira approached the display. What do humans do after they fail? Some deny it. Some blame each other. What do you do? Elena looked at the young alien. Usually, I keep working so I don't have to answer that question. Director Nerral ordered all Union lattice systems disconnected. The synchronized frequency persisted. It no longer required the amplifiers. "Can Earth scatter it?" he asked. "Earth's natural signal is too weak now," Elena replied. "Your pulse opened a direct path." Nerral did not defend his decision. "Then I will sever the path." A tactical model appeared. His command vessel carried a weapon designed to collapse transit corridors during invasions. At full strength, it could isolate Earth's region of the lattice. Vaylor examined the projected effect. "The severance will destroy their sun. It may save every star beyond it." "May?" "The models estimate a 62% probability." Elena heard him without visible reaction. "How long until you fire?" 31 minutes. "You said we had 47. "The weapon requires 16 minutes to charge." General Okafor appeared on Earth's channel. "Any attack against our sun will be treated as an act of war." Nerral faced her. "Your weapons cannot reach my vessel. That does not make it less of an act of war." "No, it makes it an act you cannot prevent." Vaylor moved between them. "Director, Earth remains our only source of adaptive variation. It is also the pathway through which the collapse is spreading, because we misused it." Nerral's composure finally broke. "My intervention saved Taliran. For 6 minutes, Vaylor said. "It gave 11 billion people 6 minutes they did not have. And now trillions may lose the rest of their lives." Nerral turned away from him. Vaylor understood the director's logic. Nerral had spent decades deciding which populations could be saved and which sacrifices would prevent larger losses. He did not believe Earth deserved destruction. He believed duty required him to act before compassion made action impossible. That conviction made him more dangerous than cruelty would have. Nerral ordered his officers to escort the students from the classroom. The energy machine sealed the exits. A new message appeared above Earth. "Solution requires unfiltered cognitive variation filter architect. Vaylor corrective access available." All eyes shifted toward the professor. Elena leaned toward her display. "What filter?" Vaylor could no longer conceal it. He transmitted Leary's research, his modifications, and the records he had found. The classroom filled with equations written nearly 4 decades earlier. Sierra read the conclusion first. "You knew the machine's fluctuations were connected to living minds. I believed they were measurement contamination. Your daughter disagreed." "Yes." "What happened to her?" Vaylor looked at Leary's final experimental record. "She died stopping an overload. I decided the noise had killed her. I built a cleaner system so her death would have meaning." Keth's voice carried more sorrow than accusation. "And every Union machine adopted your filter." "Yes." Nerral examined the data. "Can you remove it?" "From this artifact." "The wider network has incorporated the architecture into billions of systems. Then removing one filter accomplishes nothing. It may allow the machine to hear Earth properly." "May?" Vaylor met the director's gaze. "You are not the only person being asked to gamble with inhabited worlds." Sierra searched Leary's notes. "Professor," she referred to a primary interface. "The filter is not only software." Vaylor had seen that line. The energy machine did not translate cognition from a distance. It required a mind inside the interface to distinguish meaningful variation from randomness. Leary had occupied that position during the fatal experiment. A living consciousness had to become part of the machine. Elena read the same passage. "What happens to the person inside? Their neural patterns are distributed into the lattice. Can they be recovered?" "No." Nerral checked the weapon's charge. 23 minutes remained. "Even if you activate the interface," he said, "we have no planetary scale signal." Elena watched human communication channels spread across her screens. Then she opened every channel at once. "We don't need one signal," she said. That was the mistake. Elena sent a request to every government, research network, and civilian communication provider willing to receive it. "Do not synchronize." The instruction confused people accustomed to emergencies demanding unity. Humanity had to participate in a distributed experiment without following a universal rhythm. Each network would observe a small piece of lattice data and choose its own response. Some would use algorithms, others would use human operators. No two groups could share a timing source. No central system would approve individual corrections. Earth's leaders objected immediately. They feared hostile code, infrastructure damage, and panic. Several accused Elena of surrendering control to aliens. Others demanded proof that the disappearing stars were real. Then Earth's telescopes detected the first absence visible from home. Sirius vanished from the night sky. Its light should have continued reaching Earth for years. Instead, its historical photons disappeared along with the star, leaving an empty place humans had watched since before recorded history. Arguments became mobilization. Amina divided power grids into locally governed response cells. Kenji recruited orbital habitats and cargo vessels. Luis distributed lattice observations through radio telescopes. Musicians, air traffic controllers, weather stations, hospitals, factories, and personal devices entered the network. Participation remained voluntary. That condition frustrated Nerl. You require maximum coverage. We require meaningful choices, Elena replied. A forced response becomes predictable. Your people may refuse. Some will. You accept that? I have to. Earth did not become harmonious under pressure. Religious leaders debated whether the signal represented communion or danger. Privacy advocates refused neural monitoring. Military networks participated through isolated hardware. Nations withheld technology from rivals. Entire regions lost access because local infrastructure could not support the data. Yet every disagreement forced another solution. Engineers converted weather radar into lattice sensors. Fishing vessels carried relay equipment beyond damaged networks. Amateur radio operators translated alien data into audio patterns. Children used school computers to make local predictions about which frequencies would scatter the synchronized wave. No answer was individually powerful. Together they formed something the Union had designed out of itself. A civilization capable of changing direction without waiting for its entire body to agree. Keth monitored the emerging pattern. It has no stable center, he said. That is the center, Sira replied. He studied her. You sound like the humans. You are listening like one. Neryl's weapon continued charging. 15 minutes. Elena tested Earth's distributed response against the Telliran frequency. The pattern bent but did not break. Too many human systems were still following similar software. Even independent networks converged toward efficient answers. The algorithms are learning from the same assumptions, Amina said. We need sources they cannot predict, Elena replied. Human operators? Too slow at this scale. Vaylor looked toward the interface chamber. Not if the machine learns what variation means from a living mind. He removed his academy robe and folded it across the teacher's desk. Sira blocked his path. No, I designed the filter. That does not make your life a component you owe the machine. It makes me the person most capable of reversing it. Leary was more capable. The words struck him with their intended force. Sira's eyes glistened. You have spent 37 years turning your daughter into an explanation for your guilt. Do not use her again to justify a decision she cannot challenge. Vaylor looked at the student who had questioned him since her first day. He had sometimes found her exhausting. Only now did he recognize the resemblance to Leary, not in appearance, but in the refusal to let affection become obedience. You are correct, he said. Sira's shoulders lowered. Vaylor continued. My guilt is not a reason to enter the machine. My knowledge is. He showed her the filter architecture. It was modeled partly on his own neural patterns. The machine would recognize him faster than any other candidate. Someone else might need hours to reverse it. They had 13 minutes. Sira searched for another objection and found none that could survive the arithmetic. Then let me help you prepare. Keth moved beside her. Both of us. Vaylor looked toward Director Nerral. Will you delay the weapon? Nerral studied Earth's unstable pattern, then the spreading stellar failures. 12 minutes, he said. If your attempt has not reversed the collapse by then, I fire. Elena's voice sharpened. We may need longer. You have the time that exists, not the time you prefer. Vaylor entered the interface chamber. The surface felt warm beneath his hands. Light climbed his arms, mapping nerves and blood vessels. The machine opened around his mind with the patience of something ancient enough to mistake centuries for seconds. He felt the filtered lattice. It was beautiful. Billions of union systems produced one flawless note. No conflict, no ambiguity, no surprise. Behind that note waited the null tide. Vaylor finally understood it. The tide was not a creature, weapon, or invading force. It was the natural consequence of excessive coherence. The vacuum lattice could support reality only by distributing uncertainty. When civilizations removed too much variation, unresolved possibility accumulated behind the structure of space. The vanished stars had not been consumed. They had become mathematically undecidable. Earth's noise had delayed that condition because humanity continually generated alternatives. Human beings imagined futures, chose between them, regretted choices, and attempted others. Their civilization produced uncertainty shaped by responsibility. The universe did not need their power. It needed their capacity to become different. Vaylor opened the filter. Every unprocessed human signal entered his mind. He heard lullabies and emergency orders. He felt the concentration of surgeons, the fear of pilots, the stubborn patience of farmers repairing machines in darkness. He encountered jokes told during evacuations, arguments inside laboratories, and quiet decisions made by people whose names would never enter a history archive. The experience contained pain no ordered civilization would have permitted. It also contained motion. The machine asked Vaylor to identify a reference pattern. He refused. No reference, he whispered. Listen to all of them. The filter began to dissolve. Director Nerral watched the pattern from Earth strike the synchronized wave. It scattered a fraction of the frequency. Not enough. 9 minutes remained before his vessel had to fire. Nerral contacted Talaren. His daughter appeared amid failing displays. The restored suns were fading again. Evacuation status? He asked. 1.4 billion transferred to deep shelters. Orbital departures are grounded. That exceeds the original estimate. We changed the traffic rules. She explained that civilian captains had ignored the centralized evacuation routes. They created local corridors, shared fuel, and landed vessels outside assigned zones. It violated every Talaren emergency protocol. It had saved 500 million additional people. Nerral thought of Earth's distributed signal. His grandson appeared beside his daughter holding a small navigation toy. Are you coming home? Nerral had promised never to lie to the child. I am trying. Mother says the humans can fix the suns. They are attempting to. Are you helping them? Nerral looked at the severance weapon charging beneath his ship. I do not know. The transmission failed. Inside the classroom, Vaylor convulsed as the machine processed Earth's cognitive variation. Sira and Keth stabilized his body, though neither could protect his mind. Elena sent revised instructions. Director, your vessel's weapon is creating a stable field around itself. The null tide is using it as another pathway. The charge cannot be stopped safely. Then destabilize the field. That could destroy the vessel. It will certainly destroy Earth if you fire. Nerral requested proof. She provided it. The Severance lance would not isolate Earth. The weapon's uniform field would extend the synchronized condition into the solar system and erase the strongest remaining source of variation. His officers confirmed her model. Nerral canceled the firing sequence. The weapon continued charging. A commander aboard his vessel reported that the cancellation system had failed. The spreading frequency had locked the weapon's regulators into a repeating state. Nerral issued evacuation orders. "Can you move the vessel away from Earth?" Elena asked. "Transit engines are unstable. Conventional propulsion? Not fast enough." Keth accessed the vessel schematics. "The focusing array can redirect the discharge." "Toward what?" Nerral asked. "The null tide's leading edge." Elena examined the proposal. "That would strengthen it, unless the beam carries Earth's pattern." The student expanded his design. The Severance lance was powerful enough to inject human variation deep into the affected lattice. It could become an amplifier larger than the Academy machine. Nerral identified the flaw. The focusing array must be aligned manually. No remote system can operate inside the charged field. "I know," Keth said. Sira turned toward him. "Your flight training is theoretical. I have 400 simulator hours. You crashed in 112 of them, only during combat scenarios. This qualifies." Keth's face softened. "My family is in the second Talaran shelter zone. That does not make this your responsibility." "No. It makes it impossible to pretend the decision belongs to someone else." Nerral rejected the proposal. Keth challenged him with a confidence that would have been unthinkable hours earlier. "Director, you were prepared to destroy an inhabited star system based on a 62% probability. My plan gives the lattice a measurable chance of recovery. You are a student. I am the highest-ranked navigation student at the Academy. You are not trained for charged field operations. No one is." Nerral looked at Vaylor inside the machine and at Earth's incomplete network. He had based every decision on preserving the largest possible number of lives. That principle now demanded he allow a young person to risk his own. Competence did not remove cruelty from command. It merely made the cruelty harder to excuse as ignorance. "I will fly the alignment craft," Nerral said. Keth stared at him. "You do not know the Academy control architecture. I know the weapon, and I know the machine translating Earth's signal. Both are required." Sira examined the navigation route. "The craft has 2 control positions." Nerral understood her intention. "No, you require someone to manage pattern injection. You have no flight training. I have spent 6 years interpreting pre-Union energy systems." Keth shook his head. "Sira, your plan needs me." Elena interrupted before the argument hardened. 3 people can make this work. Keth flies. Sira handles the pattern. Director Nerral controls the weapon. The craft is designed for 2, but one of you can connect remotely from the command vessel. "The repeating field blocks remote control," Nerral said. "Then don't control it. Advise them. Let them make local decisions." Nerral looked at the human. She was asking him to trust 2 students with the fate of his family, Earth and every surviving star. Every instinct shaped by his career resisted. His grandson's question returned. "Are you helping them?" Nerral transmitted his weapon authorization codes to Keth. "Do not follow my instructions if your instruments contradict them," he said. "I will provide information. You will decide." Keth accepted the codes. For the first time in Nerral's command career, he surrendered authority without surrendering responsibility. The alignment craft launched with 6 minutes remaining. Keth piloted through a field that changed faster than Union instruments could model. He abandoned predictive navigation and responded to immediate conditions. The technique felt reckless until he realized it was how humans drove vehicles through weather, crowds, and imperfect roads. Sira occupied the 2nd position. Earth's distributed pattern poured across her console in layers too complex to display. "No stable injection frequency," she reported. "Choose one. That would defeat the purpose. Then choose many." The craft shook as it entered the weapon's charge boundary. Director Nerral tracked them from his command station. Field pressure rising on your forward hull. Keth saw the data. It is lower along the port arc. The port arc will place you outside the alignment corridor. For 8 seconds. You may not recover the angle. Keth turned port. The pressure fell. The weapon corridor moved beyond the craft's reach, then curved back as the field responded to Earth's pattern. Neril allowed himself a single breath of relief. At the Academy, Valor lost the ability to distinguish his memories from the signals around him. He saw Lyri at 7 years old, dismantling a gravity toy because she disliked its limited settings. He saw her as a researcher, arguing that the machine's fluctuations resembled choice under uncertainty. He saw their last experiment and recognized what grief had hidden. The resonance had not become unstable because Lyri was wrong. Valor's filter had forced millions of cognitive patterns into one channel. Lyri entered the interface to release them. She had not died fighting noise. She had died restoring variation. Her final words had been present in the record for 37 years, buried beneath his correction algorithms. Do not make it clean, Father. Valor removed the last filter. His mind began dispersing into the machine. Sira felt the result aboard the alignment craft. Earth's pattern stopped resembling data and became a living field of alternatives. Each human response altered the possibilities available to the next. She sent it into the Severance lance. The weapon rejected the input. Its safety systems demanded a coherent targeting solution. Director, we need to disable the regulators. That will expose the focusing array to the full charge. How long will it survive? Between 20 and 90 seconds. Keth checked the countdown. 3 minutes until the next collapse wave reached Earth. We only need it once. Neril gave them the override sequence. The regulators disengaged. Energy tore through the alignment craft. Keth's displays failed in succession. He switched to direct visual navigation, though the weapon appeared only as a distortion surrounded by blue fire. Sira divided Earth's pattern into thousands of channels. The focusing array began to melt. Alignment error at 7%, Neril warned. Keth fired the craft's maneuvering thrusters. Nothing happened. The port engine had failed. He could eject, but the empty craft would drift away from the array. He searched the damaged systems and found the coolant reserve. Sira, secure your suit. What are you doing? Making a thruster. He vented coolant through the damaged port engine. The escaping gas rotated the craft by 2 degrees. Not enough. He vented the cabin atmosphere. The craft turned again. Sira watched the alignment error fall below 1%. Corridor acquired. Inject. The Severance lance fired. It did not produce a clean beam. It carried the accumulated irregularity of Earth, adaptive power grids, independent machines, human judgments, conflicting solutions, and the unfiltered cognition passing through Valor. The signal entered the null tide. For an instant, every affected star existed in multiple possible states. Their masses returned without light. Their light returned in the wrong locations. Planets experienced gravity from suns that had occupied the sky centuries earlier. Elena watched the lattice struggle to resolve the contradictions. It needs guidance, Amina said. No central answer, Elena reminded her. Without one, the possibilities may never settle. Human networks began making local selections. Astronomers chose stellar positions based on direct observation. Planetary engineers selected gravitational states that preserved nearby orbits. Union navigators contributed historical measurements. Communities near failing infrastructure prioritized configurations that kept hospitals and shelters functioning. No authority could calculate the entire universe. Each participant protected the piece they understood. Those decisions propagated through the lattice. Conflicting states met, exchanged pressure, and adjusted. The process resembled neither a machine nor an army. It behaved like an ecosystem. Stars returned, 10 at first, then hundreds. The collapse countdown stopped at 1 minute, 11 seconds. The null tide retreated from the galactic core. Human voices filled the lunar station. Some shouted, some cried. Elena did neither. She watched one region of the lattice remain dark. Talaran. Its 3 stars had not resolved. Neril saw the same data. Why? Elena examined the local pattern. The earlier synchronization is too strong. The system can't select among alternatives. My family is there. I know. The Severance lance had discharged. The focusing array was gone. Earth's pattern could no longer reach Talaran with sufficient strength. Inside the energy machine, Valor had only one coherent memory left, Leary standing inside the interface. He understood what remained to be done. Professor? Sierra's voice reached him from the damaged craft. I am here. We restored the lattice, but Talaran is isolated. I can reach it. Elena saw the machine redirecting its remaining energy. Valor, your neural pattern is the only thing keeping the interface open. Yes. If you send it into Talaran, there may be nothing left to hold you together. There is already very little. Sierra pressed a hand against her console. Come back, she said. Valor wished he could promise. Instead, he gave his student the respect of truth. I cannot. Valor entered Talaran as a pattern of memory. He felt 3 suns trapped inside one repeating state. The synchronized frequency had removed their ability to settle into independent behavior. Every possible correction was forced to match the others. It resembled grief as Valor had practiced it. One memory repeated until it controlled every year that followed. Leary's death had become the rhythm of his life. He had built his research, teaching, and solitude around the same conclusion. Disorder had taken her, so order would give the loss purpose. He had never permitted the meaning to change. Talaran did not need more power. It needed permission to become 3 different stars again. Valor separated his memories. He gave the first star Leary as a child, laughing when her broken gravity toy filled their home with floating furniture. He gave the second star their final argument, including his anger and her refusal to yield. He gave the third her last words. Do not make it clean, Father. The stars responded to different patterns. Their shared frequency fractured. On Talaran's planets, the sky ignited. One sun returned white, another gold, the third deep red. Their orbital relationships shifted by a fraction, producing earthquakes and tidal surges. But the planets remained bound. Neril's daughter sent a transmission from the surface. We have light. Her father lowered his head. His grandson pushed into view. Did the humans fix it? Neril looked toward Valor's classroom. The professor did. And did you help? This time Neril knew the answer. Yes, many of us did. The energy machine's chamber opened. Valor's body remained inside, upright only because the interface supported him. His amber eyes no longer focused. Sierra and Keth returned in the alignment craft, landing hard inside the academy bay. They reached the classroom while medical teams were attempting to extract the professor. Sierra ignored their warnings and entered the chamber. Professor? The machine produced a field of scattered light. No complete consciousness remained within it, only fragments attached to different pathways. One fragment responded. Sierra. She closed both hands around Valor's. You restored Talaran. The response came through the machine in overlapping tones. Not alone. Can we recover you? No. Keth stood at the chamber entrance, still wearing his damaged flight suit. Blood darkened one side of his face. Professor, the restored stars are stable. Earth's pattern is spreading through the Union network. Valor's eyes moved slightly toward him. Good navigation. Keth tried to answer, but grief caught behind his breath. Sierra leaned closer. What should we tell the Academy? The machine displayed Earth above them. Valor saw the planet through millions of sensors. Dawn moved across Asia. Storms turned over oceans. Cities restored power after deliberately separating their grids. Humans argued about what had occurred even while continuing to repair the network. He had first shown Earth to his students as an example of an immature civilization. Now he understood that maturity did not mean the elimination of conflict. It meant building relationships strong enough to survive difference. "Tell them," Vaylor whispered through his own failing voice, "that harmony is not the absence of disagreement." The machine waited. Sira waited with it. It is the decision to remain connected while disagreement continues. His hands became still. The light carrying his mind dispersed into the restored lattice. No alarm marked his death. No ceremonial record appeared. Across thousands of systems, unstable stars made tiny corrections. That was his memorial. Elena remained on the lunar channel long after the medical team covered Vaylor's body. She had known him for less than a day. Yet she understood the shape of his mistake because it resembled her own. Both had tried to protect others by removing uncertainty. Both had learned that control could prevent some failures while creating more dangerous ones. Sira faced Elena through the display. "Did he save the universe?" "No," Elena said. "He helped it save itself." Is that distinction important to humans? It should be. Director Nerrell entered the classroom without officers. He removed the silver symbol from his coat and placed it on Vaylor's desk. "I ordered the destruction of your system," he told Elena. "Yes, I believed it was necessary." "I know. I was wrong." Elena did not offer immediate forgiveness. "I know that too." Nerrell accepted the answer. "What happens between our civilizations now?" General Okafor joined the channel. "That depends on what you do next." The director looked at the students, the ancient machine, and the human world above it. "Then I suggest we begin with questions." First contact did not produce instant friendship. Earth demanded access to the records of the missing survey vessel. The Union demanded safeguards preventing humanity from using lattice influence as a weapon. Both sides accused the other of concealing technology. Several Union worlds wanted Earth isolated. Several human governments wanted alien vessels banned from the solar system. Director Nerrell testified publicly about his decision to charge the Severance Lance. Some called him a murderer who had failed only because students disobeyed protocol. Others argued that his willingness to act had preserved Talaran long enough for a solution to be found. He refused both absolution and resignation. "I will remain in service," he told the inquiry, "until those affected by my decisions determine that my absence is more useful than my accountability." The statement pleased no political faction, which may have been why it endured. Keth declined a military commission. Instead, he joined the first mixed human-union navigation project. He argued constantly with human pilots, who considered regulations negotiable under circumstances Keth considered insufficiently defined. He became particularly close to a cargo captain from Lagos, who taught him that improvisation worked best when supported by obsessive preparation. Sira inherited Vaylor's planetary sciences course. On her first day as an instructor, she refused to stand behind his desk. She arranged the students in a circle around the energy machine and asked them to bring one question their families considered inappropriate. Enrollment doubled within a term. Earth faced its own consequences. The distributed network had exposed failures hidden by centralized systems. Some communities had adapted quickly because they possessed local expertise. Others had waited for instructions that never arrived. The crisis became a painful map of where resilience existed and where poverty had made improvisation impossible. Elena rejected attempts to describe human disorder as inherently superior. "Chaos does not feed people," she told the Contact Council. "Broken institutions are not freedom. Our value came from combining independent judgment with cooperation. Remove either part, and the system fails." Amina led the construction of planetary networks designed around that principle. Local systems could act alone, share what they learned, and refuse unsafe commands. Efficiency decreased by 3%. Survival capacity increased beyond measurement. The Union began dismantling universal synchronization standards. The transition caused delays, errors, and political fights unseen for generations. Citizens who had trusted consensus engines now had to make choices those engines once resolved for them. Some resented humanity for returning uncertainty to their lives. Others discovered art forms with no optimized emotional outcome. Music became strange. Sira loved it. 1 year after the crisis, she invited Elena to address the Academy's new course on adaptive civilizations. Elena traveled to Illyrian aboard a human vessel whose chairs were uncomfortable and whose engines produced 3 noises Union engineers insisted were preventable. The Academy classroom had been rebuilt. Valor's energy machine remained at its center, but the security barriers were gone. Students from 19 species waited beside 6 human exchange students. Among them sat Neryl's grandson, older and intensely serious. Sira activated a projection of the cosmos. Last year, Professor Valor began a lesson about the connection between living worlds and the universe. We will continue it today. She displayed the Union's former model, civilization as a progression from disorder toward perfect coordination. Then she erased the upward line. What should replace it, she asked. A student proposed a branching tree. Another suggested an ecosystem. A human student argued for a map with no destination. Neryl's grandson raised his hand. A conversation. Sira tilted her head. Explain. A civilization is not one answer. It is many people changing their answers because they hear one another. She looked toward Elena. That sounds human. The boy considered the observation. Professor Valor gave 3 sons different memories. Was that human? No, Sira said. It was his decision. The distinction mattered. Humanity had not saved the Union by making aliens imitate humans. It had demonstrated a possibility the Union had forgotten. Each species would have to express that possibility through its own history, biology, and choices. Elena approached the energy machine. For months, scientists had studied its oldest layers. They found references to civilizations that existed before the current stars formed. Those beings had built the lattice interfaces after discovering the danger of perfect coherence. They had not selected humanity in advance. Earth became the anchor because humans reached planetary-scale connection without achieving uniformity. Their conflicts nearly destroyed them many times. Their compassion repeatedly interrupted that destruction. The balance was neither destiny nor superiority. It was work, and it could be lost. Elena placed her hand over the interface. The machine projected thousands of restored suns. Between them flowed patterns from Earth, Talaran, and hundreds of Union worlds developing their own forms of adaptive variation. One faint signal remained beneath them. Valor. Not a mind, not a ghost. A recurring correction encoded into the lattice. A small resistance whenever a system became too clean. Sira saw it, so part of him remains. Part of every consequential choice remains, Elena said. Usually in people, sometimes in machines. In his case, apparently, in the behavior of stars. The students watched the signal travel outward. One of the youngest aliens pointed toward Earth. Is that planet still the anchor? Elena considered the question before answering. For now. The student's eyes widened. It can stop? Yes. Then who protects the universe? No one species should carry that alone. Elena expanded the projection until every inhabited world surrounded them. That is the next lesson. Years later, the Union marked the day of the stellar restoration as the festival of many answers. Earth refused to adopt the same name everywhere. Some countries called it First Contact Day. Others called it the night Sirius returned. Talaran celebrated 3 dawns. The Arecibo Lunar Array used the less poetic designation Lattice Failure Recovery Anniversary. Valor would have appreciated the inconsistency. Elena attended the first festival at Illyrian as an old woman. Sira had become chancellor of the academy, though she still taught one introductory class every year. Keth commanded a fleet that specialized in disasters too unpredictable for automated response. Neril had retired after completing 17 years of public inquiries, reconstruction missions, and negotiations with Earth. He sat beside Elena in the back row. "You still have not forgiven me," he said. "I forgave you 12 years ago. You never informed me. I didn't want you to become comfortable." He accepted this with the patience of someone who had spent decades learning human humor. At the center of the classroom, a new alien teacher stood beside the energy machine. Behind her waited students from worlds that had once considered one another too biologically different to share air, much less ideas. The teacher displayed an image of Earth. The planet was older, warmer, and still politically divided. Its cities had changed. Its people had not become perfectly wise. They continued to make selfish decisions, build dangerous tools, and mistake confidence for knowledge. They also continued sending rescue vessels toward strangers. The teacher asked why Earth had survived the null tide. Several hands rose. Because humans produce cognitive variation. Because their infrastructure was decentralized. Because their systems adapted through feedback. The teacher acknowledged each answer, then pointed toward an empty place near the machine. A recording of Professor Valor appeared. It was not the polished memorial approved by the Academy. Sira had selected a classroom fragment from before the crisis. Valor stood amid floating models while students argued over an assignment. He looked tired, irritated, and secretly delighted. The recording ended with him asking a question no student could answer. The teacher faced her class. Earth did not survive because humans always chose correctly. Humanity's contribution was its refusal to treat one choice as the final possible choice. She activated the restored lattice. Every world produced a different pattern now. Talaren's signal carried 3 interwoven rhythms. Sira's species contributed questions that altered their own answers. Worlds once governed by perfect prediction introduced spaces where citizens could act beyond modeled outcomes. Earth remained the most turbulent. Within its signal were traces of Elena's first failed experiment, Amina's distributed grids, Keth's improvised coolant thruster, and Neril's decision to surrender command. Valor's last correction moved among them, keeping no permanent shape. The teacher invited the students to add their own responses. Each selected one local problem and proposed a solution. They did not vote for the best one. They tested how the solutions affected one another. Some failed. Others improved only after encountering opposition. The energy machine carried those choices into the lattice. Far beyond the Union, a young star wavered. A dozen different patterns reached it. The star corrected itself. Elena watched its light settle and thought of Gabriel. She had once wanted a universe where the correct system could prevent every loss. Age had not made her comfortable with uncertainty. It had taught her that discomfort was part of responsibility. Control promised freedom from regret. Choice offered something harder. The chance to respond after regret had changed you. Neril rose to leave as the lesson ended. Was humanity exceptional? He asked her. Elena looked at Earth glowing above the machine. Yes. He waited. So was Valor, she continued. So was Sira when she challenged him. So was Keth when he stopped following the safest route. So were you when you handed him the authorization codes. That answer may disappoint your storytellers. They will improve it. Outside the classroom, Illyrion's artificial sky displayed the restored stars in real time. Thousands of species moved beneath them, no longer marching to identical schedules. The resulting traffic was inefficient, difficult, and alive. The universe had not remembered humanity as its strongest civilization. It remembered the humans who answered an impossible demand by trusting billions of imperfect participants. It remembered an alien teacher who gave 3 sons different pieces of his grief. It remembered a commander who discovered that responsibility could survive the surrender of control. Most of all, it remembered the idea that had carried reality through its narrowest hour. When one perfect answer threatened to end every future, survival came from those courageous enough to offer another.